Good afternoon. Good afternoon from Chennai. Well, it's magic and it feels surreal. It's as if the conclave just started. It also does feel like we've known each other for very long, but it is the afternoon of the final day at the ICF India Coaching Conclave 2021. I'm excited to welcome you to another session that promises to remain etched in our minds. My name is Kavita, and me, along with Krishnan and our Airmeet Tech host Priyanka, would be your host for the session. What we are about to experience is a discussion on a topic that is, well, you guessed it right, the elephant in the room. So over to
Thanks,
you.
Kavita. Age, experience, and gender seem to play a part in several professions. Do they have a part to play in coaching? At this session, join this deep dive that will explore the age old question, pun intended. If not these, explore what else does. Be part of this exciting panel discussion with two masterful coaches, a client leader, and a leadership sponsor. Before I introduce the speakers of the panel, let me thank Saint Gobain, our sponsor, whose support has made this session happen. I'll start with Gangapriya Chakravarti. She is the managing director at Ford's Business Service Organization in Chennai, India. A certified coach, she is interested in issues relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion and wellness. She practices yoga, gains energy from outdoors, appreciates art, and tries to make sense of issues in our complex world. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Women's Christian College, the best college in Chennai, I can assure you. I studied psychology and I realized that every good college in psychology is women's for some reason. And a master's degree in personal management from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Welcome, Gangapriya.
Thank you.
Our, our second panelist is Neha Lobo. She's a marketing professional with 24 years of experience spread across sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Strong foundation in sales coupled with disruptive marketing acumen has seen her landing with some important initiatives within IBM. In her current role, she leads performance marketing and brand acceleration for India and South Asia. She spent her childhood across 7 cities, lucky you, and is currently working on her self awareness quotient, being a mom of two teenagers and a senior woman corporate leader. Welcome to this session, Neha.
Thank you, Krishnan.
Okay, so our next panelist is Mel. With 27 years in coaching and leadership, Mel serves C suite executives to lead and thrive at their best. He empowers leaders and coaches to live, be brave. Mel is the founder of APIC and Catalyst Coach based in Melbourne and is passionate about democratizing coaching. He leads a global ICF accredited school that equips the future generation of coaches. Mel is a co-author of 3 books and author of the upcoming book, Engage, How to Stop Living in Default and Start Living the Life You Desire. Welcome, Mel.
Thank
Moderating
you.
this
Great.
Moderating this session with his huge experience is Jonathan Reeds, a master certified coach and CoachNet Fluxify's director for training and CEO. He co founded Team Coaching Global Alliance and is a top rated speaker at WBEX. He has written a book called Coaching Hacks Simple Strategies to Make Every Conversation More Effective. A faculty member of Weatherhead School of Management Coaching Program at Case Western Reserve University, Jonathan lives in Cleveland, Ohio with his wife Joy and daughter Julia. Welcome, Jonathan. I now hand over the session to you, and I'm really excited about this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you for the great introduction. Thanks for welcoming us. Thanks for putting us all at ease. I'm excited about the next hour. We're going to look into some of the beliefs, maybe even some of the myths around the coaching industry. But that's not our goal here today. Our goal this morning is to get into how things really work in the coaching profession. So that's the challenge I'm going to put in front of the rest of the panelists in our conversation this afternoon. Is we want to get into how things really work, and I think we'll start with with an easier one on the list of the coaching questions that we're going to talk through. But let's start first a little bit by getting to know you. If you would, in the chat area, put in what role you currently have, and I want to give you 4 different options. Just put a comment in the chat area. I'm an experienced coach, meaning you've been at this for, let's say, 5 or more years. I'm a brand new coach, meaning that you've been at coaching, 5 or less years. Maybe you are a person in the HR or corporate world that engages coaches. That's option number 3. I hire coaches or I engage coaches. And then the last category would be I'm something else. I'm thinking about coaching. I'm thinking about engaging a coach in for myself or in my firm. What role are you in? I'm seeing that there's a lot of experienced coaches, some brand new coaches. I'm an experienced coach who was HR earlier in my career. All right, very good, very good. So if you can just, as you have a moment, put that description of yourself into the chat area. All right, so we've got a lot of coaches. This is going to help us know how to tailor our answers as we begin this morning. An experienced coach, an aspiring coach, a learning coach, married to a coach. That was a category I didn't consider. We probably should have put that one in the chat area here, because my wife actually is having her birthday today, and I couldn't get her to come to the session this morning or this afternoon. I don't know why, but married to a coach, performance coach. Excellent, very good. This is helpful. So that we're clear on who we're talking with in this session. Definitely wanted to begin with that. And thank you for the happy birthday. Her name's Joy. Appreciate that. I will definitely tell her. Definitely pass that on. All right, so let's begin. Let's begin with this in mind, because here's the question that I always wonder about. We're going to start with, how much does age and or experience matter in landing clients or getting engaged with with companies that are looking for coaching clients? So, Gangapriya, let's start with you. From your experience, how much does age or experience matter in running a coaching practice?
Thank you, Jonathan. I think it's a very interesting question. And, I'm a coach myself, so I'm sort of, it is difficult to sort of answer this, but the lens that I'm going to use is that of a sponsor for coaching and what we do as an organization. Ideally, I do understand that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And it's really the coaching process, the coaching skills that a person has. But the fact is that in reality, when we are choosing coaches for our organization, it does sort of come up as a default thing that you have to be a coach who's experienced, who perhaps has got some knowledge of the area, function that the coachee is in. You would also sort of look at somebody who's had vast experience, and has done it several times and has good credentials, referrals, to be able to sort of put your money and say that, this is the kind of coach that we want for the organization. Because at the end of the day, we are spending money, and we try to sort of hopefully make the best use of the money that we are putting in, and ensuring that the coach that we finally select, or the coaches that we finally select, will be the kind of people that our employees, leaders, managers would like to see as their coaches. as it is selling coaching within the organization is difficult. So we have to make it a little easy for our coachee managers, leaders to select the coach that we put up in front of them, or coaches that we put up in front of them.
Absolutely. You know, I appreciate that what you just said a moment ago, and you tucked this into your answer. You said, "Hey, we do look for credentials." So, in your opinion, how important is that ICF credential in the selection process for coaches?
Yeah. No, I think here I must say that as a multinational organization, I think a credential from ICF does hold a lot of weight. Yeah, and that's something that would make our choice of coaches easier. Yeah, and we would say, okay, that's one box that's ticked, and it sort of assures a certain quality. Yeah, and therefore,
Excellent.
I think it makes a big difference.
All right, thank you, Gangapriya. Neha, I'd like to ask the same question to you as you're engaging coaches in your organization. How much does age or experience matter?
Hi, Jonathan. I think the experience is what people would look at, how a person conducts himself or herself. It depends on what kind of coaching do people want. If I'm looking at a personal coach for wellness or happiness or different topics like that, then I would say that age doesn't matter at all to me. It would be how they conduct, how do they get themselves trained, and it'll be great to have a coach who's much younger than me, right, in that spectrum. But if it is a life coach, we would attribute experience to age. And for me, it would be that to say that, okay, if somebody has lived through the life of certain tenure here, maybe he or she is able to kind of understand where I'm coming from. So that would be my, my take on this. I'm not so much worried about gender, I guess. Yeah, that's never crossed my mind.
Well, we're going to come to that topic here in a moment, without a doubt, because that I know is a burning question in the coaching world around the globe. So we're definitely going to come to that. All right, to Mel now. Mel, I want to change the question to you just ever so slightly, because I think we've heard from both of our colleagues that experience and training does matter. So that almost sounds to me that there's a first cut where on paper what you've accomplished, where your training is, what your credential might be, matters. But then there's that interview process where the coach has to present themselves really effectively. Yeah. What would be your guidance to coaches that are thinking about how they can present themselves most effectively?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I can only give you my answer to that because I was 33 coming back from Australia to Asia and starting out with my first potential client meeting, right? And it was a big one because a friend of mine hooked me up with the CEO of a bank. Now, being the first cut, that was really, really scary, I can tell you. But you know what? Lunch was bought by this friend. I'm saying like, fantastic, lunch taken care of. Now I just got to get the act together, right? And present something to Mr. CEO. The conversation went really well. And I think the point is when we could understand what the CEO or that particular person that you're seeing, what this person actually needs from this session or coaching or whatever intervention, and really understand that. And when I listened in on that, I began to speak with his language on what that issue was with that person. And actually, with that, I was able to value add. Right after lunch, he said, you know what? Let's give it a go. And that was my first client. Once again, everyone's got a different story, but that was my story to kind of say, you got a friend who's going to take you out for lunch and meet a CEO. You got to get your act together. But I think at the end, they're listening in on that particular heartbeat of that client, on where that pain point is, and meeting that with that value that you can offer.
Yeah, I love that. I heard three really important things here from you here, Mel, and correct me if I don't have these right. Number one, really listen to the problem your client is trying to solve.
Yeah.
And then you snuck this second one in, but I think this one is critical important. You said you took on the client's language.
Yeah, that's right.
Instead of the other way around. I think too many coaches get caught up in, hey, I've got my pitch ready, and I've got all this language I want to use. No, take on the client's language. And Mel kind of snuck that one in on us. And then he had the lens. He had the lens of, hey, how will this conversation add value?
Yeah.
Anything else you'd add to that from that strategy?
Make sure that lunch is very nice.
Well, you did also say make sure that your friend buys lunch. Good point.
Yeah. And also, a version of something that you can give the CEO to read in like 1 minute, to take away. So it's always, they're so busy. So you want to give something in the hand where they can I kind of remember when you call them back again or reconnect with them, they're like, remember the lunch, remember the conversation, remember the thing I gave you in your hand. And they often will say yes, because, they want to say they remembered it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great strategy as well. Now, let's bring Gangapriya and Neha into this moment as well. Neha, starting with you, as you've heard what Mel said, how do you respond to the process or the strategy that he laid out for coaches who are looking to work with your organization?
I completely agree on the heartbeat, and the language. That gives a comfort of somebody is listening and I can trust you're coming from where I'm coming from. And there is a chemistry there already. So I think you laid it out very well, Mel. That has been our experience. Yes.
What additional guidance would you offer coaches?
I saw on our chat window there are a lot of people who are young or they're getting there. They're learning to be coaches. In my experience, don't get caught up with the process, because I've seen when you're young, it's almost like learning to drive. So you're missing the bigger picture. You're actually not paying attention to who all on the road, or you're not enjoying the drive. You're actually sweating it out by saying, I need to start off this way. I need to have this conversation. Then I have to wrap it up. Then I have to do a reflection. That process, it gets a little mechanical, and then you miss the big picture. So I would say that just resist yourself while that process can play in your back of your mind. You can do it with finesse. So that practice is what I guess I would recommend.
Very good. Thank you, Neha. I appreciate that. Gangapriya, what's coming up for you right now?
Yeah. Jonathan, when I think about, the people that have sort of really resonated with me personally, I mean, in all cases, we have just had good conversations. I don't think they have come to sell their wares. They've just sort of come to chat, and something happens and you speak to each other like you've known each other for years together. Yeah, and somewhere I think you start trusting that person. Having said that, I can't say that would be the process for others. Yeah. And especially within organizations, when we have to sort of sell coaching as an idea, where already people come with the notion that a coach is assigned only if you have a problem. Yeah, we have to make the process easier for the coachee to pick up the coach. And in which case, some bit of the credentials, some bit of the showcasing of what you bring to the table, what stars and stripes you carry, I think is important. And I've noticed that when our employees choose coaches, you're often surprised by what made them pick the choose coaches that they did, and you wonder, what's really behind the choice. So I think it's very personal, and you may put up the best coaches, but you who you think are the best coaches, and you would think that this chemistry would work, but sometimes it's very, very personal, I would think.
I appreciate that. Now, I appreciate also the question in the chat area, and Gagapriya, we'll stay with you on this. This is from AC, saying, how is knowledge in the professional sector related to coaching? How important is it that you have experience in that particular business?
Quite frankly, if from a pure coaching perspective, and personally, I don't believe that's important, but I believe that it helps to, if I may use the term, sell the coaching arrangement to the coachee. Because there is a common notion that, if a coach has to help me, has to support me, has to see me transform myself and grow, it's important that the coach understands my context, whether it's my area of work, it's a kind of life that I lead, the kind of challenges that I face, what really works and what doesn't work. Because I've noticed many times that in our organization, when we set up these coaching arrangements, some people come back after the first meeting, after everything has been set up and they've chosen the coach, and they say, there's something missing in that person. They're not able to understand my context. And the coach may perhaps be just listening to what the coachee has to say. Yeah, and yeah.
I like what I'm hearing from you here, because sometimes experience in that sector can help you listen differently. Now, I want to challenge the coaches that are listening also to think about how your experience can help you ask better questions. Because sometimes there's industry knowledge that you just wouldn't have access to, that would matter in a coaching conversation, unless you had some experience in that area.
If I may just add, Jonathan,
Yeah.
one of the things I've noticed is that if a coach has had corporate experience, it's very easy to sell that corporate experience as an executive in a company. It's fairly easy to sell that coach amongst the coachees. I don't know what really plays in the minds of people, but I can assume, I can guess that it's perhaps that, the person has been there, done that, so understands how it works, so is perhaps better suited to meet my requirements.
I think there's something useful and interesting for us to remember, that our clients want to see themselves in us. It's a friend of mine who's in the movie business says that people don't go to movies that have stories that they like. They go to movies that have stories that are like them. So it's a really interesting line to walk. So Neha, I want to ask you specifically, how is it that coaches can position themselves to have the best possible opportunity to be accepted by clients in your organization or in similar organizations? Based on all of this, what can we do?
I think the first dilemma is, first of all, people don't know what to expect from a coach. Okay. Everybody's question is, what do I get? I mean, that differentiation from a mentor to a coach, because you would have a mentor who is within the organization, who could actually ladder you up to the next level, who knows exactly what you're doing and he or she would have done a few years back, right? so they can navigate the corporate ladder. So the need for a coach and the differentiation between a coach and a mentor is something which we keep articulating internally. And then it is also like somewhere I would take what Gangapriya started off with, right? Is that a problem? You know, uh, what are we trying to solve here? That kind of an expectation, or it is something to do with an aspiration. Is the current problem or an aspiration? So we have found that educating people about what a coach can bring to the table amongst our team, what different kinds of coaching and what is the process and how do you enjoy. And it is not easy for everybody to talk. It is not easy for everybody to trust somebody and then just let it out. So how comfortable can you get? What is the process like? And the fuzzy logic or the fuzzy thing which we people can't articulate, right? The feeling after a coaching session is how do you put it in words? So I guess those are the things which we struggle with. If somebody else is paying, if the corporate is paying and telling you, yeah, you have a coach, just go and attend the coaching class, then I'm okay. I will just go experiment and come back because I'm not paying for it, right? I mean, somewhere, there is an investment from the corporate, so it's fine. I appreciate that. But if it is me as an individual, then it's a different ballgame. So, yeah, so I think education of what coaching is all about and how do you actually select a coach, what goes through the process, how do you start and what do you end, every meeting, every 1 hour, why do we have to invest? I mean, what am I going to get out of it? So that clarity is something which everybody asks for, and everybody has a different version of it. People who have experienced it has a different version. They have a aha moment somewhere and they're not able to articulate. Then there are these models which we would have picked up from somebody, and it has really helped. Some kind of a process of some conversation, broken some barrier, broken some wall, and people would just kind of convert the rest of the audience there. So yeah, that's been my experience as
No,
far as yeah.
That's really, really helpful. Definitely appreciate hearing that. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you for your own experience when you hired your coach, because I think that has lessons for all of us to engage. For the moment, though, let me bring Mel back into this, because Neha just reinforced something that I teach. You and I are both coach trainers, coach educators. And this is something I teach students all the time. I think you have to have two really crystal clear answers in your pocket about how this is all going to work. And Neha hit on two of them, on both of them. I'll just say them to you, and I'd like to hear what your response is. She said, first of all, be able to communicate the difference between coaching and mentoring. And then secondly, be able to describe how coaches work with clients. And in fact, I do that. I don't answer when my client says to me, hey, what's the definition of coaching? I never answer that because I don't think it's helpful. What I do think is helpful is, let's talk about how we'd work together. What else do coaches need to be ready for these conversations, Mel?
Very interesting. First and foremost, have your own story of what it is all about to you, because we can have this very flashy answers like coaching is this and mentoring is this and consulting is this, and the norm, right? And they could get it as well. They could have read books on it and they still don't understand. They're like, I disagree with you. Because coaches should give some answers at least sometimes, right? You not just ask questions and just keep quiet, right? So that's what I often get, right? It's like, are you going to just keep quiet and ask me questions? I'm like, what would you like? And what you just said was very fascinating, because I would often also ask, how would you like it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations in this conversation? Like what Gangapriya said before, it's a wonderful conversation between two human beings, and I'll add that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not robots, this coach is coming in with all this structure and everything. So I guess one of the things is be very clear about your narrative,
Mm-hmm.
and of course your experience of that coaching yourself. Like for me, when people ask me, so tell me, what is coaching? What do you do? I'll just say, it's a wonderful conversation that I can have with someone that is so freeing, so open. And, we don't have agendas there in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out of it, you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a bit lighter. I feel a lot like clearer in my mind. It was a lot cloudier before. And I can think of ways of getting to that particular thing that I really wanted to start with, right? And yeah, I got that for myself, and I'm like, that's coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more, right? So I would like to say that have your story, because it's easy to tell another person's story, right? But it's better as we connect with our clients of the future with the way that we can tell our story in the mix of things, whilst hearing about their versions of where they've had the little steps in and out of coaching, because some may have had bad experiences, so again, we need to listen to it and allow them the space to get where they want
Mm-hmm.
from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love this, Mel. I love where you're going with this, and don't miss what Mel just said. Have your own story ready to be a part of the conversation. That's so important, and it's so important. And let's bring Gangapriya Neha back into this, because we're going to change the topic here in a moment.
Jonathan,
But
if I may just butt in
please,
and just
yeah.
add to Mel, I mean, as a person who sort of influences the choice of coaches, yeah, I can tell you that, perhaps everybody who comes to pitch for that business has an ICF credential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have worked for 10 to 15 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have coached hundreds of people. So that really doesn't make you unique or
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yeah,
And therefore, I
that's
think,
true.
like Mel said very beautifully, I think you need to have your own story. And if that story can be relevant for the client that you're pitching for, I think you have a winner there.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Gangapriya. Definitely appreciate that. Definitely appreciate adding that perspective. In fact, I'm going to go even one step further for coaches, and I'm going to say to you, many, many, many of us were taught in training. Mel, I'm looking at you to be neutral, to never offer anything of yourself in coaching, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that can be done. I don't think that's I don't think that's possible. A little bit of us rubs off on the people we talk to in every conversation. So how can this be an asset for you? How can who you are become an asset for the client you're working with? So I just would plant that seed for your consideration, and you can go ahead and take and tell me I'm wrong in the chat area. I can handle it. It'll be okay. Let's change the topic just a little bit. How about gender in coaching engagements? Men coaching men, women coaching women. How important is that? Just collectively for the group, whoever wants to jump in and wrestle with that. How important is that?
Let me take a shot at it. I think
Okay.
hardly important. But somehow, if I look at the track record that we seem to have more men who are being sort of coached and more women who are coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So there seems to be some preference amongst men for women coaches. Um, I don't know what's behind it, but perhaps it's because, coaching may be seen as something that's to be handled with care, and men may think that, women do it better than men, or women may think that, men will give them that aggression, that drive, and therefore I need to sort of look at a male coach. Uh, but quite frankly, at the end of the day, I don't think it makes any difference. It boils down finally to what that chemistry work is, how that works, and how much value they're able to get from the conversations that they're having with each other. That's my personal perspective.
I definitely appreciate that. Mel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you kind of know I'm sitting up wanting to jump in, right? And this, man, I really think it does matter. I'm gonna be that little thing that's gonna poke everybody now. In the real world, I think it really matters. And this is how my perspective came about. It's about the masculinity and the femininity of the approach. And I know we're talking about genders here. Yeah? So I say yes to that, but I say yes to it with the fact that, like for me, it's 50%, and at different seasons, it's more than 50% of lovely females that I am serving, right? But then there are the seasons when it's all male. Now I kind of think of what's happening over there, and to me, it's about the approach of how I reach out, or when I give opportunities for my coaches to come together, like this one particular one that just we're still in the midst of having the discussion. 90% of the coaches are men, right? Now, this is a very sensitive situation. Number one, and I don't know whether I want to even talk about that, but the percentage of that just kind of tells you something. All right. And then there is this approach where I asked the HR person, and I said this: how important is it that we must meet them with that requirement of gender? And it was actually, she said, it's open. And then there was the however. However, yeah, these blokes are engineers and they're out in the field and this and that and this. And I don't know whether, the other gender will be able to roll up their sleeves and okay, come on, women. Women coaches are just putting up their sleeves and saying, come on, give me a fight, give me a chance to fight now. But that was the truth. And I added a couple of female coaches in the mix. And I won't tell you the result of that, because we'll just leave that as it is right now. But this is the point. Some of the female coaches were chosen. They were chosen, I believe, because they could be able to give someone a fist when it's needed, a challenging moment, right? A coach, right? Be able to push it to the gauntlet, right? So I feel it is somewhat important, especially maybe in certain industry that's very one-sided, yeah? But then there is also that mix of that masculinity and femininity of the person that comes out and be able to assist in that mix as well.
Okay, love it. Love that thought. Now, Neha, you've heard an argument for it doesn't matter. You've heard an argument for it does matter. Who's right? How's that for a hard question?
I think in my experience, it didn't matter when I was looking for a coach. Let me put it that way. But when I had an opportunity to work with a coach from a corporate engagement, he was a male coach, and I was excited because at that point in time, I'll tell you what was running in my head. I was looking to grow in corporate. And by nature of the number of male to female ratio, there's male sitting in the higher positions, right? And when you are engaging with a coach who is engaging with your bosses, and you know all of them are, many of them are men, you are very happy to get some tips going there. So it's in a way that was motivating for me to say, okay, but did I have a choice there? No, I did not have a choice. I don't know how I would have reacted to saying if there was a female coach there. But when it came to my own engagement, it's currently a female coach. So
okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
that's my
Now, I
experience.
appreciate the three unique perspectives here, because here's what I'm taking away from hearing the three of you, and I'll be interested in your reactions. Is it may or it may not matter to you, and that's not really the point. The point is that it can sometimes matter very much to the client, and we have to be attuned to those kinds of things. As you hear me say that, anything that any of you want to add to the whole idea of gender matching in coaching? All right, you're all being quiet and thoughtful. That's good.
I'm good. I'm good with your first point. You said you had a couple of points, so I'll just wait for that.
Okay. The first one being, yeah, that it may matter to the client. My own experience matches that. I've never actually polled, do I have more male clients or female clients? I don't actually know that answer, but I can tell you with a high level of confidence that I can tell you who it mattered to from the client end, almost without exception. The other thing about all of this that's jumping out to me is, this is the second point, is that much more important than age or even experience is coach-client fit, is the fit you have with the client. So as we jump into that, I'd like to spend a few minutes on that. Can we start by Neha asking you to tell the story about how you selected your coach?
Sure, Jonathan. It is a long one for the audience,
Okay.
but let me just say first. I think way back in 2019 is when I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were mulling over the fact that yes, we've all crossed the year 40, and we are now thinking about what next. Those kind of discussions start off when we just cross over 40. And this is one of those dinner conversations. And then we said, okay, I think it's time for us to get a coach. And then we started discussing about how people are, different people around in our circles have a coach and things like that. And then I expressed this interest. And this friend of mine said, okay, I'll keep an eye out. So what are you expecting? And I didn't have an answer there. I said, I don't know what I'm expecting, but I definitely think I should have a coach at this point in time, because I have run out of options of formal education, right? I finished all my formal education. Maybe I will go and do something else. I am not looking at anything internal. So and I'm not really coming from a point where I need to get to a point in my career, because I'm very well versed with internal dynamics, and I think I can handle that well. Those kind of things. So that answer was difficult, but then we ended the dinner saying that, okay, we'll keep this in mind, and then split. 2020, he came back and said, I have a friend of mine. I think I know you very well. So this person would be a good fit for to be your coach. And I thanked that gentleman for that conversation. I had a very long conversation, going back to what Gangapriya said, the conversation, right? It was really good. About an hour or so we spoke, and there was no expectation whether I'm going to sign him off as a coach, or no such things, right? He was actually deselling in terms of saying, are you sure about it? It's very expensive. Have you thought about it? Your commitment, and you may not get in every conversation what you wanted to get. He's trying to paint a bleak picture so that you really think and you're committed. I liked that process, and I went through that process for about 1 hour or so. I came out of it feeling so good that this person said, This is a service like any other service in the market. Go do your shopping. Don't have to sign up with me. Just go around and do your own shopping. Meet more people, talk to them, and only then you should sign up for a coach. Don't sign up in like the first conversation. I thank him for that because I just did what he said. I wanted to meet people and have this conversation. Then somebody else would say, okay, there's a free coaching. I'm giving you a voucher for your birthday. Why don't you go and meet? And that kind. I did all of that. And then by the third or the fourth conversation, I knew what I want. I knew what kind of a person I want to talk to. I should be feeling like liberated after the conversation. I should let that person tap into the areas which is a blind spot for me. I'm thinking of that, and then I did my own research. I reached out to the coach who's now my coach, and I asked her. I just chatted with her, and that conversation also went on very well. Um, then it was about whether I can commit to the expense or the investment. Let me put it that way. It's an investment right now. So how do you want to commit to that? Then I reached out to her and said, are you okay to be my coach? And that's it. 8 months into the coaching session, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I'm a great advocate to saying that people should have a coach at certain point in life, and that is what value you can bring in is almost saying that you have somebody looking at you, having your back, having your conversation, unraveling you, tapping into your potentials, preparing you for whatever you want to do. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and that's been my experience of having my own coach.
Okay, so you're 8 months into the coaching process. How long did it take you to select your coach?
It took me about started 2019 the conversation, right? So maybe a year and a month or so. Yeah. So yeah.
And how did you change during that process as you were looking for a coach?
I was more aware, like what Mel mentioned. It was not the definitions. The definitions can be told in many ways, but it was that feeling of having that conversation and having that trust, and going with an open mind, because not every time you start a conversation from a point and then you end up in some other place. You should be happy with that change, or you should be happy with that place. So I felt that I have grown in that process, and I thank that gentleman for saying go and shop, because that would have that actually made it very easy for me. I was determined that this is the service I need at this point in my life, and this is a value add, and I'm committed to investing. So that he was so, and it was so liberating. You're not committed. Like, I didn't feel guilty that I had spent his 1 hour and another friend's so many hours and something else, like that, like almost like 4 hours of different people. I didn't feel guilty about it. It was like any other service which you go shopping and then finally educate the client, and then you would lose the client to a competition. That happens.
It does happen. I really appreciate I really appreciate your willingness to be transparent and to talk about that process, because I don't think coaches get to hear that very often. Gangapriya, let me shift over to you. Neha covered a lot of ground there. What jumped out to you as especially important for coaches to hear?
Yeah, I think there is a difference between finding a coach for yourself when you're ready for it, and finding a coach when somebody is sort of setting it up for you, particularly your company. So that's something that we really need to, when you have stake in it, I think you're serious about it. You try and understand it because, and you're putting your money only after you're convinced about it. And therefore, I think there is a lesson for us corporates to pick up from such an exercise, such a discussion, which is to say that, just keeping a panel of coaches in front of our coachees, with us having picked up those coaches in the panel, really may not be the most effective way to go about identifying coaches for our employees. And perhaps we need to allow our employees to shop also. Yeah, and therefore I think it's a great lesson for us to take away from what Neha said.
How much choice do your employees have in who ends up being their coach?
Quite frankly, as a company, we can keep a whole panel of coaches available for them. I mean, that's really not an issue. Yeah, and we can give them the liberty of time to make their choice. Because if you're serious about seeing development for our employees, transformational change in their lives, I think we should also be willing to sort of support them the whole way. We cannot make it with conditions.
Yeah, appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that, and I applaud you for that stance. So Mel, I'm going to shift over to you now for a moment. The theme that kind of runs through these last few minutes, and then Johnny put this in the Q&A area. He said, "What are your thoughts about the statement that when the client is ready, the coach appears?" How does that land for you? What are your thoughts along those lines?
There is obviously some truth in that. That talks about how ready you and I are to be aware of what our needs are. So what Neha was saying was that when she was turning 30, pun intended for you, Neha, she felt a certain sense of me needing to find someone that would help me in my journey, right? So I think that is important in that sense, but yet I think it is, I would say it is a constant thing. If we have in our mind that growth is important for each one of us, and I do believe in that, then it is on a daily sense. I think I want to grow on a daily sense, and just, on a, 12 sessions with my coach, and then I start, getting that kind of growth, and appreciate this awareness. But I think every day I'm peeling back and I'm unlearning all these things that I think is perhaps time to let go. That's one of the things that age does to you. I'll be turning 50 next year. And when I think about that, even, I'm thinking of those things that over the last 50 years I've done that may have not been great in one sense, but perhaps not the stuff that I do not want to bring into my next years. Yeah. So it's one of those things when I'm saying, I am now ready to let go. And I think when we're able to let go of things, I think that's when things appear to us. Because if we don't know what to let go and we still want to hold on to this, and it could be even a coach, I often advise my clients to let go of me. Because I think at times I say, I think you've overgrown this relationship. Okay. Why don't you just go away for a while, and think through all the things that you have been saying about you. So I'm answering in that way to kind of say that the onus is often on the person to realize that growth is important. And when that happens, then yes, anything is open to them, including coaching.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, we have just a few minutes left, and we are going to run a couple of minutes over on this session. So we'll end a little bit after our scheduled ending time. As we head into the home stretch here, let's do a lightning round. Short answers to these questions only. I've got 6 or 8 questions, just a sentence or two or 3 at the most in your answer. So, Gangapriya, we'll start with you. How do you know when you have coach-client fit?
Comfortable conversations.
Excellent.
I can't define comfortable, but I can sense it.
Okay. So comfortable conversations, and you know when it's comfortable,
Yeah.
and when it's not. Excellent. Neha, same question. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry,
There we
Jonathan,
go.
how do I know when
How do you
coach
know
and
you
coach?
have a fit between coach and client?
When I'm looking forward to that conversation next time.
Right on. Yeah, great answer. Mel, what do you do to develop chemistry between coach and client?
I say it in 3 H: honesty, humility, and humor.
Excellent. I love those. Honesty, humility, and humor. Perfect.
Yeah.
Gangapriya, same question to you. What would you recommend coaches do to develop chemistry?
Just stay with the coachee. I mean, try and sort of get into the world of the coachee. I mean, I think that's really what I would think needs to happen.
Excellent. All right, Neha, new question. How do you evaluate success in a coaching engagement?
If the coachee has grown, so I'm looking at myself being a coachee who has a growth mindset. So the success is from if I have moved in whatever manner, in that trajectory, if I have moved a little.
Okay. Very good. Gangapriya, back to you. How do you evaluate success in a coaching engagement?
I would say pretty similar to what Neha said, that I'm sort of deliberate about the actions that I take, the choices that I make based on those conversations. And sometimes
Very
they
good.
are not very me-like.
Excellent. Mel, how about you? How do you evaluate success in a coaching conversation?
I think it's the level of clarity and the level of calm that comes onto the coaching. Yeah.
So 2 words that begin with C. I was expecting H's.
There you go.
That's okay. Now, Mel, we'll stay with you on this one.
Yeah.
What indicates to you that your client is changed as a result of your coaching?
Couple of things. They talk differently from where I could see from the start to the end. They are differently in themselves, the way they carry themselves, and I think there's a sense of confidence as well in themselves. Yeah.
Excellent. Neha, how about the same question? How do you know when a client is changed because of coaching?
Open to change, being honest about what you didn't know. So let me start. My story there is, I was honest in saying I didn't see this of my side, and I know, and hence I'm self-aware right now. So that bit is when somebody stands up in the office and says that, that there is something happening.
Yeah.
There all of us are imperfect, so there is no judgment there. But when you stand up and say, yeah, I did not know about it, now I'm aware, so guys, that kind of a conversation. So where people would want to tell you, but they haven't told you, but now that you have a coach, you figured it out, and you are open to world and saying you have no qualms about who you are, and you are saying that I am. So I think that's a great testimony.
Well,
That's
I love
very
that.
liberating.
Growth and self-awareness. That's really, really powerful. Gangapriya, how do we know that clients are changed?
Yeah, in my organization, when they set up time with me and come and tell me that the coach really made a difference to them.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that, and there is a certain excitement. You can sense that excitement. There is energy, and they want to tell the world that this person made a big difference to my life.
Definitely. All right, our last question as we wrap up our conversation this afternoon. Neha, we'll start with you. What's your best 1 or 2 sentences of advice for clients who want to serve, for coaches who want to serve their clients even better?
Be yourself and make your coachee feel, I mean, everything in that 1 hour. Be, self-presence, be present, whole body mind listening, and be present, no distraction. So give it all yours, and then I think that is, and the coach has to be in a flow, cannot be caught up with the process, have to be in a flow, and that works really well, is what
Definitely
I feel.
appreciate that. Thank you, Neha. And I couldn't agree more. Turn your phone off. Close your email before you start coaching. Give your client your full attention. Gangapriya, how about you? What would you say to coaches who want to raise their game in serving their clients?
Yeah, I would say that don't try too hard. I sometimes see, particularly with corporates, coaches can sometimes really try hard. And many times
Wow.
that can sort of really get them away from the client, from the corporate client. They need to watch out for that. When they start selling, when they start pitching for business. Yeah, I think I would say don't overdo it.
Definitely appreciate that. I have a
Beautiful.
student that says, I never work harder at doing nothing than when I'm coaching, because it's got to have the relationship has to be able to flow. All right, my friend Mel, you get the last word here. What would be your best guidance to coaches?
I like the statement, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I think because it's a people to people connection, it's all about that word, that care, or that duty of care that a coach can have for his coachee, his friend, his partner. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Mel. I definitely want to say thank you to the three of you for this conversation. There's a saying in this country, in America, that there is no learning without a significant relationship. And I just want to thank you for being willing to join this conversation, to bring the best of yourself, to put it on display for folks that were joining this panel. Definitely appreciate your willingness to wrestle with these questions and to go where the conversation goes. And I hope this is the first step in an ongoing relationship as we challenge and invite coaches to grow, improve, and to make an incredible difference, not only in business, but in the world. So, Krishnan, thank you for the opportunity. We welcome you back.
Thank you so much. So we had a fantastic an hour plus in kind of deconstructing the elephant in the room. What I loved was the incisive honesty that Gangapriya showed, vulnerable honesty that Neha showed, and the masterful, calm demeanor that Mel brought into the whole conversation, and the way, Jonathan, you carried it. It's just amazing. Thank you. This is one of my favorite sessions in this entire conclave, and you can see that I'm all lit up. I mean, I do not know if you're.
No.
That's getting ready for the evening. So my invitation to all of you to join us at 8 o'clock for the closing ceremony. That's going to be some lively music, and Magda Mook, CEO of ICF Global is joining us. So that's going to be another wonderful evening. Before closing this session, let me thank once again from my heart our session sponsor, Saint Gobain. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Nupriya. Thank you, Mel. And thanks to the wonderful audience. Thanks to my fellow hosts, Kavita and Priyanka. All have been great support. This is my last session in this conclave where I'm hosting, and it's been a fantastic experience. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.